Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Shrishti's very own talk show, Art Beats, where we talk about everything art, design, and politics. I'm your host, Kashvi Singhal, and today's topic is AI and art in design. Is this a new creative crisis? Well, we are in a moment of crisis, not just globally, but right here in our studios, our classrooms, and even in our sketchbooks. With the rise of AI generated art, we're seeing a shift in how art is created, consumed, and even valued. So, is AI slowly killing originality, or is it redefining it? Today, we're joined with two guests. Our guest today is Amitabh Kumar, an artist, educator, and cultural producer from Bangalore. He's known for his murals across India, his work with comics and self publishing, his role in shaping creative education at Shrishti. His practice moves between drawing, mark making, and digital media, always questioning what it means to make art in an ever changing world. He is joined with Madhav, a designer from Bangalore who values learning through exploration and feedback. He's passionate about cinema, literature, and how different art forms connect. His art blends well with design and AI, and as seen in his projects like Carbon and V-Cycle, he uses technology as a creative partner to solve real problems. Welcome. So let's dive in. To start off, I would like to ask you both, what are your thoughts on the emergence of AI, and how do you think it impacts our art industry?
आप जाइए
आप जाइए
अच्छा ठीक है yeah, so I'm Madhav. I'm studying BCSP, and for starters I chose to study design because I felt that it was one of those few degrees where there is a back and forth, and also it's one of those few fields where the student can be right and not just the teacher. So after school I felt like I needed to go somewhere where there's a positive feedback loop and where there's no right answer, in the sense that I would actually need a teacher and need to learn things from them. So that's why I chose to study design. And my foray into artificial intelligence was, like most people, through interacting with ChatGPT. I learned about it from there. I didn't understand what was special about it at first. Then as I got deeper into it, I could understand how it would make sense of what I was saying. And I didn't have to be as accurate as using a Google search to get what I wanted, and introduce algorithms to actually give me what I want. So I got deeper into that, and I've been using it to solve certain UI UX problems or other things that would take teams a few years to actually develop. So it's helped me a lot in that sense, and I've been looking forward to learning more, going deeper even into the technical aspects. And I'm glad that I'm able to create things alone as well. That's also a big plus point, and most people will be able to create things alone. So that's something that will democratize creation, entrepreneurship, art, etc.
And that is important in a sense to like respect your skill as well, right?
Yeah, respect your skill. And also I think that once more people are enabled with their ideas, then and they can actually push it to a few million people just through a few prompts and within a few months, then that amount of scale, and once you build on top of that scale, it actually creates new possibilities. So it's the same thing that's happening now, or it's like the Industrial Revolution where you create things and then you create things on top of that. And then more people just keep building, but now the pace is much, much quicker and it's become cheaper. And all due to AI, which started in the 1960s, that we can actually mark the term AI. But it was obviously much before that too.
Yeah, I mean, from paintbrush to Photoshop, we already did evolve. AI is just the next wave in the evolution. Right?
True.
So, what do you?
Wow, that was a wonderful grounding by Madhav. But I feel it's like Madhav was saying, I think it's a very long story. And it's not a story that's just happened, since ChatGPT came about in public consciousness. I think the story is about technology. The story is about the evolution of the artifact through the intervention of technology. And it's also the relationship between the singular figure of the artist, since we're talking about art and design, and the exclusivity of that figure. And I feel what this moment does, I mean, it's not just AI per se, and I'm a bit queasy about the term. There is also machine learning, there is also sentient thinking, there's a lot that makes this moment possible. There's also automation. And I feel like the invention of camera, or the invention of the printing press, or the invention of computers, or coding, or the internet, these are moments that have significantly altered this this relationship, for the lack of a better word, between the artist, technology, and a larger social spectrum. I feel what what AI does at one level is to really democratize art, which means that anybody has the capacity to generate through their own authorship, and it complicates the word authorship as well. They have access to creating hyper-realistic or a varied style. I mean, the Studio Ghibli example also showed that you have a certain autonomy and agency in developing a certain kind of imagery that is bespoke in a manner that cultivates, that responds to my singular taste. Um, and this has always happened. Photoshop did the same thing to image making and the figure of the artist. Camera did the same thing to the figure of the painter. And I feel historically, if you really look at it, there have been beautiful responses to technology taking through as well. We've had a lot of conversation at Shrishti around this. And in one of those conversations, the insight I got, and I thought this is something I'll probably throw at young Madhav to sort of deal with, is I think we would talk about the impact of AI on industry. However, if you look at post-industrial revolution, post-enlightenment, the role of technology in accelerating industry paradigms, you see another agency coming into play, which at the surface goes missing. And that agency is greed, is the need for profit, and the cost for that profit. And I think when the need for profit or the greed for profit overtakes the ideals or the idea of human agency, that's when we have situations like this where we need to sit down and talk about something. So it's not so much about the impact of AI on industry. I'm more worried about the impact of industry on AI, which is a whole different paradigm. In a way that, like when technology came in, for example, film, right? We're not shooting on film stock roll, we are shooting digital. This is what, 7, 8, 10 years ago perhaps, when actually film as media went out. With that, what went out was a whole range of professions, a whole range of people with whom this was a technical skill, which was bread and butter. And it's not just like cinema example. I mean, even when Photoshop came in, the entire commercial art scene radically changed. We had someone called a letter setter. It's gone, it's over, because letter setting is not required anymore. It happens, kerning, leading happens on your screen. I feel we're in a similar moment. However, this gives us an opportunity to actually recalibrate our own motivations as a capitalist industrial complex.
Right. I agree with that. And as you said that AI is being used very vastly in several professions now, not just like, it's not a technological change in one, right? So do you think it's taking over a lot of human jobs, which might be detrimental for us moving forward?
No, I think AI should take over these human jobs. I feel all obedient systems need to be evaporated. And I don't think obedience as a form of human resource arrangement is a good one. And when I say obedient systems, I mean the armed forces, I mean security guards. Yeah. How many of us have problems with a human being, not a robot, a human being who's not letting us in for our ID card? These people should be replaced by robots because they behave like robots, right? Education, again, rote learning. Get robots into the classroom because the human is not playing the human agency. I feel the opportunity is to really understand human agency and mechanical agency and evaporate mechanical systems, do away with them.
Right. And
you want to say something?
Sorry.
No. Yeah, I wanted to agree with them actually. So the whole purpose of AI and technological advancement in the sense is to create a more efficient capitalist system and then to build on top of that. So Sam Altman recently spoke about the jobs and how we're losing them. And he said that the people whose jobs are being replaced never had real jobs in the first place. Which I feel is true because there is this thing called the clerical ability that we have. And that's just doing repetitive tasks again and again just to arrange data and arrange patterns and push that through to actually be filtered, which is again a clerical task. So if a machine can do that, then I think a human mind with the potential that it has should be used only to create. We don't know the type of jobs that will be created. We don't know what people will be doing once things can be automated. But that's also one of the plus points of technological advancement is that we're going into a gray space. It's unsafe, but we're also moving on from what there is now. If we're seeing that there's something bad with our current society today, and change is always scary, so we should move into a gray space and then figure out things as they come, because that's the only way to actually push forward. So I think efficiency is one reason I think AI should take over jobs, and also to free up the mind to create new things using these tools. And that's apart from just the technical aspect of how it can parallelly process or filter large amounts of data. So that's just a plus point, and it enables it, which is good.
But as a student who is currently learning design, or rather practicing design in college, don't you think that a future where you don't know whether you'll actually be able to apply what you're learning or not is a bit scary? So, don't you feel like AI is devaluing the art that traditional artists are creating?
Well, yeah. So you used art and design in the same context, and that's also something I've been thinking about. So design is, I looked at design as a business function, not so much an artistic and like it's not so much an artistic expression of who I am. I mean, you could have that, but most designers, even if their designs are aesthetically pleasing, they are thinking about the customer. They are also thinking about efficiency for the business and how to pull in the customer either through some psychological design or through any other technological efficiency that they want to put through in their design. But art is more of an expression of the soul. I don't think people should be able to mimic art. I don't think mimicry is art. And that art is an expression of one's individual lived experiences that have been put out through a tangible medium which can be interpreted by another human being's senses.
Right.
So art, I feel it's much more tangible, but the medium for which the medium which through art is expressed, I feel should be, I think it should be medium agnostic. You should be able to use computers and what they have to provide to create types of art. I disagree with stealing or mimicry. But AI, it's more than just image generation and the Ghibli prompts, or maybe even VO3, which is like Google's new video gen tool. I think it's beyond that. Just the fundamental grounds on which AI logic works and the patterns that it's able to create is something that I actually really look forward to. But with image generation, once everyone's able to do it, it'll naturally lose value. I feel like why we're intimidated by image generation is that our impression of a final product, it's achieved now much more simply. But then that final product also becomes a unit, and our new impression of a final product will get much bigger.
Right, and Amitabh, so as you said, originality is everything in art school, right? Like, despite AI, you cannot be mimicking work. And so, do you think like using AI is a shortcut for your students, or it's a new tool? Like, how do you feel about your students working with AI technology? Do you approve of it or disagree?
That's a simpler way of us answering the question. I, personally speaking, but you asked me about my practice at Shishti, and that's different from my own artistic practice. So I'll separate the two. I feel very strongly about the fact that when you're making a drawing, that's only half the process. Actually, what's happening is that the drawing is making you. And I think that aspect of practice, or the purpose of practice, or the purpose of media creation, lies in what the process of media creation does to you. And that is something that I find evidence of, and I engage with people who are trying to build expertise in media practice with that approach. It's not just about the media that you produce, it's also what the process of creating the media does to you, which is beautiful. I think the danger of AI, what Madhav said, yeah, of course, outcome and creating sophisticated finished products and stuff, I feel that's obviously there. But so I'm running a 7th semester project with final year students currently, and I learned something actually. I think the most dangerous thing about AI is not the fact that it can give you a ready-made image in Ghibli style actually. When you outsource your thinking to AI, I feel that's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And I think market trends support that, because like Madhav earlier said also, there are two things that I've observed, because I'm also a practitioner who is an industry affiliated figure. I feel there are two things happening. Firstly, it's possible to have a single person company, like one person can do everything, which is what it is. I won't say good or bad. But the other thing that's happening that's dangerous is that timelines are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Right. A children's book that you'd be given a month to do, you're being paid more, but you're being given like quarter of the time to do it. And you're expected to use AI, and everybody is okay with it. And I feel that is very dangerous. When you equate quality with time, and when that becomes a mandate, where when artists and voices and styles become replaceable by some, like, art is not mimicry, but AI mimics in that sense, So or whatever we understand as AI mimics in this sense. So I don't know. I think to take a value position on this would be tricky, because I think we train people to become individuals at Srishti, and if one person can find some recourse in AI, I don't know. I don't see it as a very different moment when iPad came in and people started drawing on iPad. I thought that was cheating. But we had no policy around it. The same thing when Photoshop came in, you can just do undo button Apple Z. Like traditionally, people used to have a white ink and then cover it and then overdo it. But here, half a second, and that's unfair. Unfair till that moment where that technology doesn't become all pervasive. So the moment when the technology takes time to catch up, you will find these. But there have been so many of these waves. My only worry is these waves are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and that's scary.
I think so. Once that happened, and fine arts went into digital arts, I think we had to create new connotations to actually differentiate the semantics. So when you say digital art and you say that this was made on something digital, people understand that you had the option to do an undo. So then the impressiveness of how good that art is, or like the standard of that art, is gauged, I think, at least subconsciously, it's gauged with the understanding that they had the option to do an undo. They also had all these tools. And let's say even digital art has been democratized. So if they had these tools and this is their art, then I'm going to say that they're this good or bad based on people who had those tools. So I think tools also change the standards by which we actually look at art. So like you're saying, if you're drawing with, say, ink and you can't take back the ink, which is true, but then that way you would give more, I mean, you would say that this ink artist has more skill because they're a fine artist and they're able to do it that way without taking the line back. So you could say it one way if that was a very binary conversation. So I think tools change connotations for the sake, so that we have semantics that we understand. And AI might also do that. So we will have new connotations with what we're able to create.
Right, I agree. But then how do you maintain your personal artistic voice when you're using AI?
I think we should first ask, what is personal artistic voice in the age of AI?
In the age of AI, so I think that I think those questions are connected. So in the sense that if we just look at what is personal artistic voice, and from my reading of Tolstoy's What is Art, which I completely agree with, that's why I'm citing it. He said that every individual has a lived experience that's unique to him, and what he creates as art is an expression of his soul through a tangible medium, which can also be interpreted by the senses of an external body. So I think once you have that unique expression, or we correctly said personal expression, then I feel like that constitutes is art. I think once when you're training AI models and it actually filters out everything, and then people then mimic it to create something in the same style. So I don't think the Ghibli generations are art, even though every person in that generation is different. Also, I mean, there are connotations and semantics against art style and mimicry or repetition. But if we're looking at the bigger picture, I think something that's actually authentic would have more value. So I'll agree with him on that.
Yes, and as Amitabh said earlier, there's a lot of discussion about authorship, right? Like just recently, the Australian government said that even though artists' work are being used to train AI, they still need to be given credit. So I think that's how you make sure that the original work is still given the recognition that it deserves in the age of AI. But I think, Madhav, you especially, you said you do use some AI softwares, right? So could you talk about the different softwares and how they have been benefiting you for your art and design practices?
Right. So there are different AIs for different kinds of tasks, which they specialize in said function. So for UI UX, I've been doing a lot of UI UX projects. I've been doing some VC projects. I've also been doing some ML projects, like just core AI, where I train these agentic models to do and automate certain tasks for me. So for UI UX, I'm deep into Figma Make, and both the projects that you said, Recycle and Carbon, were made using Figma Make. And They're obviously integrated with other tools just because I needed different kind of logical input on that, and I could change a few AI settings, namely temperature and top gear, but that's different. So I could change those settings to get different kinds of answers. But Figma Make helps me with UI UX. I think Notebook LM, it's a pretty big learning tool now, and I feel it's really efficient where it can filter that much information and actually give you an output for that. So I've used that quite often, also for my classes, and I've cited the use of AI too, and we spoke about that too in my GS itself. And I've been using, the basic ChatGPT, Perplexity, Comet. Just started ChatGPT's Atlas, their new browser. So that's also interesting, wherein I could log into my LinkedIn and I could give it a prompt to just look for these kinds of jobs, people, and locations, and it could take control of my screen and just go and scan all the information.
It's
So
a search filter.
No, it's not a search filter. It could like move the mouse, go to the search bar, and then type in what I'm looking for. So it could control the screen like a human person. So it did the task for me. It automated it, but it was pretty creepy, I will admit.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
excited.
don't you think there's no like privacy anymore? You're feeding data
Yeah,
all
I
your
am giving it
information.
data. I'll
Yeah.
admit to that. But so that's why I've not used it for data as where there's maybe a key or a token that you're not supposed to give. So for private data, I still do it manually. But for my LinkedIn, which is public, and all the jobs that are public, I thought it would be okay to do it. And also, I wanted to experiment with something new because it's not fun to shy away.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you learn about these different AI tools? Like,
Actually, just ask AI for more AI tools. It's one of the best research companions I've ever had. I think I use Gemini quite often for research. So right now, that's like my standard AI tool. It's like switching between different phones to see which one's better. I really love Gemini 2.5 Pro. So it gives me resources, and you can also customize the kind of outputs it gives you. So on the profile, you can like choose what kind of answers you like in what format. So I've done that for myself, and it gives me the resources, the links, and it obviously trains itself based on what I tell it that I like, and then that eventually gets more efficient. But for certain tasks, I want a certain tool, and maybe I want a free product, I want a paid product. So I can get that using AI because it can filter information pretty quickly. So my Google search, I do it, but it's quite rare when I want to look at the bigger picture of the topic I'm trying to look into. I don't open with the Google search then.
Wow.
so Amitabh, do you think art education will be able to adapt to this new like AI creative landscape?
What do you mean?
Like, as artists or like as a practitioner yourself, yes, you have been using AI, but as in
I
like
don't use AI. As a practitioner, as an artist,
right, but you have
anti-AI.
you have students who've been using AI, right?
Yeah, I mean, as an educator, because it's not about me, I think it's only makes sense to,
So, as an educator, let's take just that element now. Don't you think that AI is doing a good enough job at teaching people?
define good enough.
As he said, it's one of his favorite companions, right?
His favorite.
Research
companions.
Research
Yeah,
companions, exactly. So, do you think art education, where it's a lot of like feedback based learning? So, recently I saw that Canva just it gave me an option, give me design feedback, and I pressed on that, and it scanned my design and gave me feedback on it. So, these are things we usually used to go to our mentors for, right? So, do you think that since AI is able to do that as well now, there will be a very subtle but fast shift in art education now that AI is coming in? Like, do you think the role of educators are reducing because of that?
I wouldn't use the word reduction, but I do think the entire role of education itself, when seen through technology, and I think not just AI, I think just YouTube, really makes education would I send my son to college? I don't think so. I mean, he's
Right.
12 right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, the more and more we are living in times where we can access knowledge, and we can access different viewpoints, and we have a research partner, for example, which is a technological moment. It really makes you question what is the purpose of the institution, and what is the institution really doing?
Exactly.
Because institutions cost money, right? And I feel you need to understand what is the classroom, what is education, apart from the socializing space that it provides, apart from people meeting each other, and that nostalgia or that experience. I think the entire function of the educator, the facilitator, firstly, I think when Google happened, and I remember it because it was a point of, it was a cultural moment for me when you could search for things online. Because before that, you have to go to the archive and you have to go to the library and you have to see actual physical plates. There was little or no access to information. Like if I wanted to see Goya's work, I'd have to go to my fine arts faculty archive, and then there would be a printed plate, an old plate that's been made like 20 years ago, and that's how knowledge was accessed. And therefore, the teacher became a carrier of knowledge, and I would pass my knowledge on to the other person, and that was my role. I was a conduit of knowledge systems flowing. Google totally changed it because everybody knows everything now. I mean, it's literally on your fingertips. So, for me personally speaking, as an educator, I do not see myself as a knowledge source at all. In fact, the fallacy that I am the knowledge source is actually detrimental for the student because technically everybody should be doing what Madhav is doing because everybody can do what Madhav is doing in that sense, because there is no, I mean, it's just him and his approach to technology that is making it accessible. I'm not sure you're spending like millions of bucks getting licenses.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
It's all free for now.
these are free access software. So the point I'm trying to make is that the technology might be present, but I think individual approaches to technology in a way that Madhav has, I think needs to be promoted because I do think that higher education and the exorbitant prices, such as our own institution charging, is at some levels, it will be drawn to redundancy apart from a social experience. And for that, I feel there are cheaper ways to get your kicks, if you know what I mean. So
I agree. And I mean, as a student myself, I always had this question that when you're assessing other students' works, right? Earlier, I feel like it used to be a lot of skill-based. Like you might be assessing the level of skill as well as skill as in like the technical elements, like how fine the work is.
Technical skill.
Right. But now that AI is being used vastly, how do you distinguish between like a similar prompt has been given by you and a class full of students are responding to it? I'm sure at least 90% would be using AI to generate an outcome, right? So how do you distinguish between the level of work produced by one versus the other?
Well, there are many hacks around it, but I think the easiest is to really focus on process and change your assessment parameters in a way that I think the institution really needs to look at its assessment framework, and we are, like we genuinely are. And I think this is what AI has done to not just us, but many other education institutes, because like you rightly pointed out, I think the meaning and the form and the figure of the educator and education all have to respond to the changing climate that exists. I feel your assessment parameters completely change. I think the fact, like for me specifically, although I am an image maker myself, I don't engage with the media creation process with people I work with, at least. I mean, in the sense that, not that I don't care about it, but I feel that is a subjective call. It's almost becomes too personal a thing to enter because people have their own ways, own methods, own purposes of media practice, as I have my own, So I feel focusing your learning experience on the processual development of the learner and focusing on the development of the learner as a person, as opposed to the outcome that they're giving. So for me, the major transformation that AI has brought about as an educator is perhaps that I don't really, how to say this politely? I'm not really moved by what the student makes as much as the student themselves. And I don't know if that makes sense.
So it's more about the idea behind it?
No, it's more about the person behind it.
And the vision they had, I feel.
Not just the vision they had, why they are having the vision, how they are having the vision, whether they have interest, capacity, stamina in converting that vision into a mediated reality. And, it's just, I think, what AI, I personally feel, although I think AI sucks, right? But what it does for me is beautiful because you can just cut to the chase. I think my interest as an educator is now more than ever person specific as opposed to project specific. I think that's the major shift.
Yeah.
So how do you weigh the impression of AI on one's project from someone who's used it versus someone who's not? So
Harshly.
Okay. No, because you're saying you look at the growth in a person through the course, no?
Yeah.
So I love that approach. But then how do you gauge it when you're looking at their work, since work is the outcome of the course and the kind of person you've become throughout the course. So how do you gauge it?
That's
when did you
wonderful. That's another form that at least post GPT or in the last 2 years, I've been able to create, and more learning situations that I am part of veer towards that space, which is the discursive form. I think discussions, sharing of ideas, debates become not just a very palpable way of understanding what the person is thinking, their ideas, as opposed to ideas that have been generated and are being given to them. That's why I think, and that also susses out this entire harvesting thought. If you outsource your thinking to the tool, that's when I think I start pressing the panic button or that's when my red flags appear, because that is evidenced in your not being able to hold a discussion,
Right.
or you are not being able to engage.
I feel like so now it's more like mentorship. Like they want to understand from you more than just like see your work on the portal. I think that's been happening a lot in our classes recently as well.
Who wants to
Right.
understand? So the faculty want to understand you?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
I think
Really?
that's
It's been
exactly.
happening across the board?
Yeah, I feel
That's
like
good to know.
especially in the creative education class we were discussing earlier, I think that is something that's a good way to understand how much the student has actually put into their work, right? The effort rather than just the outcome. So we have a tradition on our show that the guests create a small sketch for our Art Beats wall here. So since you're a practitioner yourself, if you don't mind, I would like to request you to just create
Do I have
something.
to do it like while the camera is rolling, or can I do it like peacefully in this?
I think you can do it peacefully later and share that with us.
Sure. Madhav also.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll contribute.
Great.
So, unfortunately, we are slowly coming to the end of our show now. And before we wrap up, I would like to ask you both one, I think, final question. If you had one message for the young artists navigating this AI revolution, what would that be?
I am the young artist.
I know. So maybe you'll connect better and say the right things. I have to think a little
People
bit about
might.
it.
Right. So first of all, I don't think most people are exploring AI and its possibilities. They're afraid of it either because they feel like their job might go or something could go wrong with the way that they're using it. Maybe their information gets stolen, which is actually a pretty solid concern. But I don't think they should shy away from new technology because AI or no AI, that specific phrase might be a moot point in the sense that it's almost inevitable now with how efficient it is and with the kind of giants controlling the use of AI and the products that we're going to use and interact with in the future. So we have to get used to it. We can just learn how to tame it. So how he said you shouldn't outsource your thinking, I think that's completely correct. You shouldn't ask it what to do with your life. You can maybe ask it to summarize information or get you certain things from the world that have been made by other people, and now it's at your disposal to actually build on top of. So that's one way you can use it, but you should never shy away from new technology is what I'd say.
Yeah, I completely second that actually. I think you have to engage. You can't be under a rock because it's your relationship with the world. But I hope, and here I think we'll address the Shishti student, because I think those I know and those I can hope for. I don't want to take Thekadari for the world. I think it's a dangerous position. But I definitely feel understanding the human agency and in yourself as a creative, understanding what makes you a specific creative individual, I genuinely feel AI can help you doing that, because it really puts the focus and the attention on you directly. Human agency is something that I feel AI has allowed us as educators to directly address in the learning experiences that we are doing. We are not trying to obtusely generate it, or we're not hoping this exercise will help this capability. I genuinely feel the optimism is that we will be able to look at human growth and human agency within an industrial context in a manner that, for perhaps maybe the first time in history, we can actually get it right, because we've got it wrong all the time before this.
I feel like someone like you who's anti-AI for his own work,
I'm Uncle AI, not Auntie AI. But anyway.
I feel like the way that you support your students using it, that's admirable. I think that's required. Faculty should not restrict their students from using it. So even the young designers who are watching our show, I feel, as you both rightly said, AI is the new right, I would say, right? I think Madhav would agree.
I agree, 100%. We'll take it up later, off camera.
So thank you to our guests and for sharing their thoughts and experiences, and to everyone watching for being part of this conversation. So art keeps evolving, and so do we, and maybe that's what makes it exciting. No matter the medium, what matters the most is the intent, as they clearly said, the curiosity and the story we bring to it. Thank you, and we'll see you again for another episode of Art Beats.
Was your script AI generated?
It was given to me.
Just no comment because I was sitting there behind.
Really?